My boss doesn't hear me. If you ever felt that way, you're not alone. In fact, this is one of the most common complaints on Reddit. So today, I'm turning AI to become your personal negotiation coach to untangle this frustrating problem. And I'm gonna do it using 3 moves. First, I give AI a brain transplant. Second, I make AI to interview me first. And third, I force AI to think like a strategist. And at the end, I'll show you how I tested this on myself as the guinea pig to talk to a real VP. But first, let me show you what most people get wrong. Most of people use AI to either write emails or just use it as a Google search. I mean, this is not terrible necessarily, but it's super generic. Instead of asking AI a generic question, we turn AI to a real human with a specific expertise and ask them our question. Let's see how it's gonna work. Move 1, give AI a brain transplant. So why this is specific to human being? Chris Voss is one of the top negotiators, and he has very specific techniques that are super relevant for corporate world. And Kim Scott actually worked in a corporate world in the trenches. Now, second move is make AI interview you first. Before I make AI to interview me, I'm gonna go through the context, and I always provide 4 specific steps in the context that I provide to AI. The first one is the structural reality. That's really the situation that you're trying to resolve. The second one is the emotional reality. Are you frustrated? Are you angry? The third one is what's at stake that you have to resolve this. And the fourth one is who is your audience. So in this case, it would be your manager. I'm not gonna type the full context in front of you because otherwise this is gonna turn to a 30-minute video, but don't worry about it. I have the full mega prompt in the description so you can just copy paste it. Okay, back to building. Copy pasting the context. I'm gonna also add a task. Now for this one, I identified already 7 specific topics that could be your blind spot. So I'm gonna type it here, but you really don't need to do that. You can just ask AI to interview you. Very simple with 6 to 8 questions to identify any blind spot or bias that I might have. Next move is to force AI to think before it speaks. The way to force AI to go beyond shallow pattern matching is to use chain of thought reasoning. This is a technique that is very similar to brainstorming or thinking out loud. Basically, instead of just thinking about one thing and then go and execute, what you do when you think out loud or when you brainstorm is that you come up with multiple options. You do an research and probably come up with even more options. And then you look at all of them, you remove the ones that are unpractical, and then you come up with your final solution. So it's the same concept. You want AI to diagnose, you want it to research, you want it to remove anything that's not really practical, and then come up with the most optimal solution. Here's I'm gonna use chain of thought reasoning. I add at the end of it in this format. And here's why formats are important. Sometimes you're doing a data work, so you might just need an Excel sheet. Sometimes you're looking for a PowerPoint or a document. In this case, I'm looking for a framework, for a word by word script, for few different things. So that's why I'm gonna specify it in the prompt. And the 30-day practice plan. This is basically when I wanna test the waters and not just jump in with a word for word script and go and potentially surprise my manager. I want to see day by day if I'm getting it wrong, if I understand the root cause properly, and if I'm on the right track. I don't want to commit a career suicide, basically. There are a few other steps that I'm going to add as well to this prompt now, but you can just copy paste it from the description. These are the smaller points, such as don't sugarcoat things for me, don't hallucinate, and a few other things. Now, here's how I tested this on myself. Many months ago, I started to see a very uncomfortable pattern in how I raise risk in executive meetings. So I would go there and I would raise a risk, but the vibe of the room would get confused. Because it happens more than once, I got really annoyed. So I went back and I started researching, and I turned to AI to understand what is the root cause. When AI started asking me questions, I think it was the 3rd question, when it asked, have you been in that same meeting when someone else raises a risk very similar to yours and it's very clear for everyone? And that was my aha moment. I started to think back. I started to go to the meetings and just be very observant of what is happening. When I go to a meeting, I would just go and raise the risk as the opening statement. And I would raise it with such a panicky tone, and then I wouldn't specify what is my expectation here. Like, why am I raising this risk? In contrast, my colleague, he would wait for his turn, and when he wanted to raise a risk, first of all, he would tell a good story about the progress, about an accomplishment. Then he would raise the risk, but from a tone of someone who's on the balcony and seeing the whole situation, not from someone who is in the situation. So he would give himself a good distance between the risk and him explaining the risk. And then, and this is really important, he would specify what's the expectation, which is usually one of these. Either you're expecting management to support you, like you're at a point that you're like, we think we need your support, or it would be something along the lines of, we are already looking at a few options, we'll keep you posted. So it's more from transparency and communication. Now, I know this is such an obvious thing now that I explain it to you, but when you're in a situation, we have so many biases and blind spots that we don't see these obvious things. So leveraging AI, especially on that interview part, it helps you at the very least to identify your blind spots. That moment when you're saying something and it's either receiving as very confusing or completely ignored, that might not be an idea problem. It could be a communication problem. Now go and put your input in this prompt and figure out what actually is the root cause of the problem, and let me know in the comment if you have an aha moment. And if you're looking for more mega prompts like this, watch this video next. See you next one.